Ubuntu is a South African Xhosa word that translates to humanity, or I am what I am because of who we all are. Turn to the person next to you and repeat after me. I am what I am because of who you are. When I Googled the meaning of community, it told me a group of people living in the same area or having a particular characteristic in common. But growing up in a Caribbean household introduced me to a new perspective, a new lens that valued and magnified community far beyond just living near other people. I have fond memories of my grandpa introducing himself to pretty much everybody we encountered, whether it was on a walk, at the grocery store, or on our way to school. My grandparents often share stories about their time growing up in Jamaica. It was truly a time of love and community. My grandpa was born in St. Elizabeth, where community was necessary for livelihood. They often traveled together to get to school, to visit loved ones, and to get the groceries. When I asked my grandpa about his experience of community when he moved to Canada, he dropped his head and lowered his gaze. He told me a story about his neighbor. Unfortunately, this neighbor ended up passing away, but due to how little everyone in the community spoke to one another, it was months before my grandpa learned of his own neighbor's passing. He said, "This could have never out in the yard," or something like this could have never happened back home in Jamaica. Everyone was far too interconnected for something so significant to happen without anyone taking the time to acknowledge it. Fast forward a few years, my grandparents had their daughter, my mother, and moved to Edmonton, Alberta, my hometown. There, they experienced a thriving Caribbean community and encouraged my sister and I to do the same. My mom always made sure to give us the opportunity to explore ourselves in community by enrolling us in creative summer camps, mentorship programs, and hip-hop dance classes at our local community center. My grandma always reminded me that birds of a feather flock together and to keep good company. My twin sister, Essence, and I were inseparable as kids. We quickly became each other's daily experience of community and have built a relationship of love, acceptance, and sisterhood. It has taught me such an important lesson, and that is, community is so important, even if you experience it with only one other person. From there, community became my normal. My first elementary school was predominantly Black and brown students in Malton. We spent our recesses playing hand clap games, reenacting Destiny's Child music videos, and trading our less favorite snacks for fruit roll-ups and Dunkaroos. We built snow forts and avoided getting caught playing Red Rover. We were always welcomed and greeted by community elders who volunteered to supervise our recesses. We called them Auntie P and Auntie D. It's one of my earliest and fondest memories of community. At age 9, my family moved to the outskirts of Toronto. As one of maybe 5 or 6 Black students in my entire new school, I felt like an outsider having to navigate microaggressions and the pressure to conform. This led down a path of negative body image issues, and eventually, I succumbed to eating disorders. I was quite literally shrinking myself to fit in. But therein lies the mental shift that transformed my perspective. I ditched conformity, embraced my differences, did my very own big chop as a radical act of self-love, and built my very own natural hair care blog. Not only was I able to connect to other young Black girls and women on a similar journey to myself, but I was able to uncover even more about my passion for writing in the process. In 2017, I moved to Barbados to study a semester abroad. Each day, I would take what's called a ZR, similar to a minibus, to the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus. I would hop on the ZR, the driver's partner would point me to my seat, and the driver would keep the bus moving. I said good morning, good afternoon, and good night to pretty much everyone I walked past, and grew used to old family and friends dropping by my great aunt's house unexpectedly, usually with a little bit of food and a whole lot of laughter. Months after I had moved back to Toronto, following the end of my exchange, my great aunt called me to let me know that the ZR driver wanted to check in on me. He wanted to make sure that I was okay, since he didn't see me going to class or on campus at all anymore. I couldn't believe it. Here was a total stranger, someone that I'm a complete stranger to, checking in on me. This was totally different from the big city mentality I had grown accustomed to. I was used to keeping my shoulders up, chin tucked, zipping through the city, avoiding eye contact on the TTC, perhaps exchanging a closed-mouth smile here or there, but certainly no good mornings, good afternoons, good nights, and certainly no checking in on strangers. To know that the ZR driver wanted to check in on me makes me feel like I mattered. It makes me feel like people noticed if I wasn't around and didn't have to know so much about me to extend some care. This experience threw my mind into a craze. What was so different between Edmonton, Barbados, and Toronto? Why was I able to experience such a sense of community in Barbados and even Edmonton, but found such a challenge experiencing it right here in Toronto? I came to 3 notable factors. 1, Toronto is huge. Beyond the downtown core lies the greater Toronto area. Folks are constantly commuting in and out, a top typical hustle and bustle culture of any big city, and there are about 1 trillion different things happening at any given moment. 2, social disconnection. We are simultaneously connected and disconnected, both online and in reality. We spend our time tapping, swiping, and texting, likely more than we spend time engaging in real conversations with one another. And 3, everyone's always so busy. We live in a society that prioritizes having our schedules filled to the brim. We're used to rushing from one place to the next, from class and then to school, home, and then work, and then all over again. We're constantly struggling to find time for ourselves. Who has time for community? When I was in my final year of high school, preparing to shift into university, my teachers lectured me about how independent university would require me to be. They convinced me that I'd be viewed as a number, just another small student guppy in a big academic pond. But these are the same harmful and isolating ideologies we upkeep when we continue to tell students to expect to be alone the further they get through life. In actuality, I view my university experience as successful because I relied on my community. I went to my professor's office hours, I connected with my TAs, I became acquainted with my classmates, I volunteered, I joined the Caribbean Students Association, and I built lasting friendships. This is how Carl Jung explains individuation, becoming our truest self to connect to others. In community, I was able to continue my academic journey feeling strong, supported, uplifted, and liberated. In contrast, Jung explores hyper-individualism, an excessive focus on oneself. In hyper-individualism, difference is viewed as a factor to further isolate from others. But this mentality doesn't help anyone at all. In fact, it only creates a bigger challenge. In exploring individuation, hyper-individualism, and community as a young Black woman, I found that hyper-individualism stems from a patriarchal capitalist lens, where women are socialized to sacrifice or give up for the greater good of a group or community. Men are socialized to focus on self with far less regard for others. In capitalism, there is never enough pie. Everyone must continue their pursuit toward success, stepping on or over anyone who gets in the way. But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. There is no trophy for doing it all by yourself. In fact, doing it all by yourself often looks like showing up inauthentically, ignoring your own boundaries, and placing extreme amounts of pressure on yourself. It looks like a life of depression, anxiety, isolation, and loneliness. So, how do we bring back a sense of community? To Toronto, to everyone listening, this is my open letter to bringing back a sense of community. Dear listener, it is up to us to recreate the current human experience, to bring back the sense of community our ancestors once knew so well. I'm asking you to take these 3 steps with me as we sought out to bring back a sense of community together. First, be yourself. Find out what you like, what you don't like, and who you are in your truest form. When you find you, show up as you everywhere you go. Second, be active in building connections with others. Though I understand how nice it is to be curled up on your couch, scrolling through TikTok, resist the urge and resist isolation. When we limit ourselves to a digital reality, we lose humanity. We lose ubuntu. And 3, be open and vulnerable. I understand how easy it is to be cold and closed off in a world that can be so harsh. But when you're open and vulnerable, you'll inspire others to do the same. Soon enough, you'll find that a group, or perhaps even a community of you, are able to be open and vulnerable with one another. We need community now more than ever. The sooner we can get back to a sense of community, the sooner we can get back to treating each other with love, kindness, care, and grace. So, you in? I'm inspired by inclusive spaces like the Tri-Mentoring program right here at Toronto Metropolitan University. Not only do they seek to mentor students in various different ways, but they support them in finding a sense of belonging on campus. This life is not about getting through it alone, but rather, it's about building relationships that make it all worth it. Connecting to those who can really find the best in you and further bring out the best in you. My name is Eboni Morgan. I am a writer, storyteller, community creator, activist, futurist, mentor, proud Canadian Caribbean, best friend, twin sister, daughter, granddaughter, TED Talk speaker. And I am because we all are. Thank you.